And we are live here on the Showtime podcast. Welcome in because we have to preview a pivotal week 13 in the league. This will be a solo Trayton Benz pod here today as Ty Stewart Langston is on his way to Fayetteville, Arkansas for Thanksgiving giving with the Langstons. There will be all the turkey, all the ham, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, all the things. But while he is en route, we felt like we had to get this content out to you. And so, yes, I'm the boring twin, but here I am to deliver the quick analysis of what we saw in week 12, a standings review and update for everybody on what they need for the Sacko, irrelevancy, or the playoffs, and then some picks for week 13. I'll text Ty right now to send me his picks. Send me your picks. But anyways, it's a Wednesday afternoon, so you know what that means. We're not actually working here. We're just sitting around. Jaden took Knox over to her mom's, and I had nothing to do. So here I am with a solo podcast. Let me get the link out to everybody. League announcements. We are live. I am live. Okay. All right. And now that we've done that, let's get right into your week 12 review. We're really only going to look at relevant matchups here as we take a look at what happened in week 12. I'm sure somebody got screwed. I'm sure somebody got lucky. We'll start with the irrelevant matchups. Actually, I'm not even going to actually look at what happened here. Cannon took down Andrew 112 to 88. This was probably the most irrelevant game of all time. Andrew is more or less locked into the 8-9 game. Cannon locked himself into the 1 seed, but this was 11-1 versus 3-9, and it was a blowout. Nobody cared about this one at all. The other 3 matchups definitely had some relevancy, or 4 matchups. So let's go into it, starting with irrelevant. Lucas Rapert versus Cole Walker. Circle the wagons, took this one down 147 to 116. This was a pivotal win for Luke as he improved to 5-7. Cole is now on a 4-game losing streak. Showtime kind of called that out. I know he's not listening to this because he doesn't listen when he loses, but he falls to 6-6. Luke is 5-7. This was huge for Luke. I believe he basically needed this to have a chance at avoiding the Sacko. But huge game here for Luke. I believe he was the highest scorer of the week. Let me confirm that. Yes, highest score of the week, Luke Rapert. Daniel Jones, 20 points against the Chiefs. Christian McCaffrey on Monday night. He didn't actually need anything from McCaffrey, but it was nice to get those points for. We'll look more at tiebreakers here in a little bit. But then let me pull up our banner. Week 12 recap. We've even got a comment here. Golesh, a hog. Looks like I commented that, but it's actually Ty on our account. We'll see. The reports are that Alex Golesh might be a Razorback. I would love that. Maybe it's just some smoke right now. The official announcement could come out later today, but would love that. All right, continuing on with how Luke took Cole down here. This was a Sun God week. So Sun God, 25 fantasy points. Sorry, my boss is messaging me. Okay. This was a Sun God week, 25 fantasy points, 9 for 150, and a touchdown here for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Luke's leading scorer on the week. Devontae Adams, the goal line wide receiver, continues his role, 2 touchdowns, 20 burger. Judkins, 2 goal line touchdowns, both out of the Wildcat, 20 burger. So some strong performances for Luke across the board. Didn't matter that Alec Pierce got 1 catch or Darius Slayton got 1 catch. He still dominated Cole in this one. Looking at Cole's roster, what went wrong? I mean, 116, not horrible from Cole. You don't really expect to win with 116, but he got good games out of Jalen Hurts, 32, Ashton Jeanty, 20. But that's pretty much all she wrote. Shakir came through with 13, but Bijan only 13 against the Saints. You definitely expect more out of Bijan. DK Metcalf got only 11.9 with a touchdown. Pretty disappointing season for DK. Andrews was kind of a desperation tight end play. He's been flailing at tight end ever since he lost Kraft. And then he desperately started both Buccaneers running backs, Potato and Sean Tucker, and that predictably failed miserably. Yeah, Cole's roster kind of fraudulent here. He's really just Hurts and then Bijan and the boys for the most part. Um, so really, Cole is getting predictably exposed here and falls to 6-6. He didn't really deserve to be 7-5, and we'll talk more about where these teams stand in our standings review and also our preview for week 13. But huge win for Luke. Oh, forgot to mention the Patriots kicker, 18 points. Huge there for Lucas Rapert. So big win for Luke. He just needed this to have some hope going into next week, and Cole losing this one definitely provides even more hope for both Luke and Will, but we'll get into that later. Next relevant matchup was Jerry and Will. So again, this was big for Will. He gets to 5-7 here, and he keeps his hopes for irrelevancy alive. Jerry falls to 1-11, one of the worst seasons we've seen in the league in a long time. This is going to be a year to forget for Jerry. He actually put up one of his higher scoring performances, 128, and he somehow did that with Baker getting hurt and only scoring 5 points. Wandale Robinson had 26. Travis Etienne, who Josh just handed him for a bag of chips, 19. Hunter Henry, 21 off the waiver wire. Rams D, 20. So really not a bad week for Jerry, but Will came through in this one. Jahmyr Gibbs, 49.9. Didn't quite get that 50 burger, but 219 rushing yards, 45 receiving yards, 11 catches, and 3 total touchdowns, including 2 breakaway touchdowns in the late second half and overtime. Gibbs has just been an absolute monster this year, averaging 21 fantasy points. He's been an engine for Will's team, even though Will is 5-7. Realistically, his points for, I think, are second in the league. So kind of an unlucky 5-7. He's won 4 straight, though, and has a chance to escape the Sacko. George Pickens as well. Great draft pick by Will. Number 2 receiver in fantasy, 25 points, came through in this one against the Eagles. And honestly, that's kind of like Tyrone Tracy, 14. He a defense and kicker combined for 23, and then really it was a bunch of duds as well. DeAndre Swift, 1.4 points with a fumble. Dallas Goedert, 3. Bashal Tootin, 1.7. Not really sure why he started him. Lamar Jackson's been horrible, only 7. So, um, honestly, this was basically Jahmyr and Pickens carrying Will's team to a win, and we'll get more into what that means for Will in a second. But big win for Will last week. Getting into our Showtime matchups of the week presented by Reese's Pieces. Let's look at White Shirt taking down Max. Ty beat No Jesus is King in this one, 127-89, an absolute blowout. Max's team just didn't show up. He falls to 6-6. Ty officially secures the 2 seed at 9-3. For Ty, this one doesn't mean that much. Jared Goff 20, James Cook 20, Rashee Rice 20. Just a workmanlike effort from Ty's studs, and then just got enough from everyone else. 127, nothing to write home about, but you like to get a win there. The story of this game is really about Max. His team had been playing well. He'd been on a pretty good streak here in the back half of the year, looking to make a playoff push, but falls way short in this one, only 89 points, falling to 6-6, and now on the outside looking in for the playoff race and could even fall to the Sacko. Brock Purdy, I'm not really sure why he benched Stafford here. Stafford is the number 2 fantasy quarterback. I probably would have started Stafford. It wouldn't have made a difference, but Purdy was horrible on Monday night. 3 picks, 9 fantasy points. His running back situation is just in a horrible spot. Hampton's on IR. Vidal was on bye. So he had to go with Jordan Mason and Devin Singletary. They predictably scored 4 points each. Pretty embarrassing. Puka, 13. Not horrible. Michael Wilson, 16. He's been a great add off the waiver wire. So he got something from him, but Travis Kelce 6, Nico 7, Lions D -3 against Jameis and the Giants. So just wasn't Max's week. Got a lot of single digits, including quarterback, and you're just never gonna have a chance to win in that circumstance. So Again, sets up a pretty entertaining next week as he falls to 6-6 there with Cole. But big win for Ty to secure the number 2 seed. 1 second, let me respond back. Um, okay. And then we'll look at my matchup here with Joshua Belford. Josh took me down 140 to 113. This was actually a really big win for Josh. He goes to 7-5, and I stay at 7-5. And so now we are both in the playoff race, but Josh needed this one in the worst way. And he really showed up in this one, had a lot of good matchups. Derrick Henry led the way with 21.8 points, 2 touchdowns against the Jets. A.J. Brown had one of his better games on the year against the Cowboys, also 21 fantasy points. And then just got a lot of double digits from other guys. Drake May, 18, Chase Brown, 14, Trey McBride, 12, Brees Hall, 12, Jalen Warren, 12. A lot of guys in the 12s. Packers D, 18 against 9, J.J. McCarthy. Um, Kind of depressing to watch that, and just so many sacks, like 5 sacks, 2 picks, a fumble. Um, Unfortunate there for me to have to watch that against 9 and watch 9 do that versus the defense that I'm playing. But either way, my team, I wouldn't say I completely shat the bed. 113. Dak put up 31. Jacoby Myers 13. Cam Little 13. But again, a lot of duds. Roma Dunze has been on a bad stretch, only 6. Kyle Pitts, kind of embarrassing play by me there at tight end on Gadsden's bye week. Aaron Jones 7, Henderson 9. I just didn't really get the touchdowns this week, honestly, from my skill guys. So this one probably meant more to Josh than me. It would have been nice to win and really secure playoffs, but Josh's team's honestly pretty good, and he took me down pretty easily in this one. So we don't need to dwell on it. We're both 7-5. And now we will take a look at the standings here as we turn the page from week 12. And right, as we turn the page from week 12 and look at let me look at our banners here. Actually, we're going to look at the waiver wire first. That we won't take too long on this because the waiver wire was mostly irrelevant this week. Sorry, let me just boop, 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 boop. Shift, click. Do, 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 do. Custom. I know this is great content for you guys as I scroll on my computer and find something before I boop 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 boop. Okay. Let me look at the comments. I'm sure you guys are loving this. Settle a car ride to Arkansas spousal debate. Is Moe's trash? I guess it depends on what you define as trash. I mean, it's not as good as Chipotle, Flying Burrito, anything like that. But if it's like the closest, so for example, it's the closest thing to my house, and if the closest thing to your house, and you just want a burrito, like it's not like it'll get the job done. I'm not gonna sit there dreaming about Moe's at night and like, oh, I can't wait to have Moe's tomorrow. But if I have like 5 minutes in between meetings and I just want to scarf down a burrito, I will go to Moe's. Josh said he hasn't heard of it. I don't know how that's possible. You're an idiot. And yes, Ty's a better host. I'll just be honest. I'm sitting here trying to like half work, and I don't know how to transition into anything. So, anyways, waiver wire. Ty has acquired Brian Thomas Jr. for $36 after dropping him last week. I don't really understand this. Brian Thomas Jr. sucks. I guess Ty just has fab to burn. Cannon embarrassingly tried to get him too. Cole, $30 on the Falcons D. They're playing the Jets, I believe, but either way, he has them on his bench. Cannon mentioned this earlier. People are stocking up on DSTs here at the end of the year. Speaking of, Josh acquires the Chargers for 15. They have a good matchup this week against the Raiders at home. Gino just let up like 12 sacks. So pretty good ad there. He sniped Will for them and Luke and myself for $0 bid. Luke adds Devin Neal with Alvin Kamara going down. Cannon tried to get him too for $13. I don't think Luke is starting. Oh, Luke's starting him. That's embarrassing. Let's see. Luke also tried to get Jacoby. Oh, he did get Jacoby Brissett. Is he starting Jacoby? God, he's starting Jacoby too. This is super embarrassing from Luke. I'm just reading off his starting lineup here on the waiver wire. I added Chimere DK. Pretty savvy move by me. Ty tried to get the Bucks D. Then he got Will Reichert. Luke got John Mechie, Cardinals D, and Jaden Higgins. All right, waiver wire was pretty pointless this week. And now we are going to transition to a standings review. This is what everyone came to look at here as we are trying to figure out what the hell do people need to do anything. So I'm going to text search something that Luke sent because this will help guide me. So we're really going to look at it from each individual's perspective. For Josh, he has the best. I guess I'll start with Cannon's locked into the 1 seed, Ty's locked into the 2 seed, Jerry's locked into the 10 seed, and Andrew's locked into the 9 seed. And so really that means the 3 through 8 seeds are completely up for grabs. And really a lot of people can end up in a lot of those different seeds. And looking at just the standings on the app right now, me and Josh are at 7 and 5. Cole and Max are at 6 and 6, and Will and Luke are at 5 and 7. And so there is 6 teams, which needs 2 playoff spots, 2 irrelevance, and 2 Sacko. And now with only 1 week left, me and Josh cannot go to the Sacko, and Will and Luke cannot go to the playoffs. There's a 2-game separation there. And so really the only thing that can happen is me or Josh could fall back into irrelevancy, and Luke or Will could jump into irrelevancy. But the 2 teams that have all the options still available are Cole and Max at 6 and 6. They could theoretically make the playoffs, irrelevancy, or the Sacko. Looking at ESPN's projections, they've got Josh at an 85% chance of the playoffs, me 73%, Max 23%, and Cole 19. And that checks out based on points for and where we're at in the standings right now. But looking at the message that Luke sent and just recapping for everybody, Josh has the best chance to make the playoffs just because with his points for lead over me, really if he wins, he's in for sure. And then basically he just needs to have Cole and Max both not win. I don't even think really Cole can catch him in points for, so it would be me and Max winning, him losing, and me passing him in points for. Or no, I would just need to win. Basically, he has a 27 points lead over Max. And so if Max wins and scores a lot and Josh loses and Max outscores him by 27, that's really the only realistic way that Josh is in irrelevancy. So I think Josh is feeling pretty good with where he's at with his points. And also he plays Luke this week, who I believe has a lot of bad matchups. We just talked about Luke starting guys off the waiver wire. So if Josh were to not make the playoffs at this point, it would be kind of a utter crumble bagel. So Josh is feeling good. Myself sitting at 7 and 5, I'm currently the 4 seed. And so I have a couple options. My easiest option is just beat Jerry. Jerry's 1 and 11. If I can't beat Jerry, then maybe I don't deserve the playoffs. Jerry's been a bye all year. If I beat Jerry, I'm in the playoffs. But I also have a more of a Mickey Mouse route, and that would be Max and Cole losing, because then nobody else can get to 7 wins, and I'm in. So going to be rooting for that. And then also 2, even if I lost and Max or Cole won, then I could still get in as long as I keep my points for leads. And so if I keep my points for lead over Cole, which is 35. But then Max, I only have a 3 points for lead. So if I were to lose and Max were to win, it'd be pretty tough for me to probably keep that points for lead over Max. And so realistically, unless Max loses, then I probably need to win. So I'm really rooting for Will to beat Max and obviously myself to beat Jerry. But either way, I feel pretty good as well about the playoffs. Um, Max to make the playoffs, again, it's mostly against me. He has to catch Josh by 27. So really for Max, he needs a win and me to lose. And that's probably an easy path. Like he'd probably outscore me at that point. So that's what Max is looking at. But he can also follow the Sacko. If he loses and Cole wins, well, I guess in this scenario, Luke and Will also both have to win. So if Luke and Will both win, which Max losing means Will wins. And so then if I guess that doesn't actually have to happen, Max could make the Sacco with Luke. So if Will wins, then Max is in the Sacco. Um, if Cole also wins, because then Max would be 6-6, Will would be 6-6, but outscoring Max. And so really, Max could easily be in the Sacco with a loss. But Cole would have to beat Cannon, which probably isn't happening. Because the thing is, if they both lose, Cole needs to outscore Max by 31, which also probably isn't happening. So Max actually feels relatively safe as a like net. Max feels pretty safe into irrelevancy. Um, but he also obviously has that outside shot at the playoffs. Cole definitely has the highest chance of Sacco, who's not currently in it. Because if Cole loses, he's basically in the Sacco as long as Luke or Will win. And I believe Will's projected to win. And so really Luke and Will are both rooting hard for Cannon this week because they need Cole to lose for either of them to have a chance. Now they both have to win, but Cole basically, if he loses, he needs Max and Josh to win to save him because his points for are so much lower than Luke's and Will's. So Cole making the playoffs is pretty much out of range, it seems like. He's pretty behind points for in me and Josh, who have a win over him. He's playing Cannon, and he has a points for deficit to Max if he were to win. So Cole at this point is in Sacco protection mode, but there is a slim chance that his team goes off and everything else goes right and he makes the playoffs. And then again, Luke and Will, they're both just pining for irrelevancy. They obviously need to win. They're sitting at 5-7, and then they both need Cole to lose. And so then it becomes between Luke and Will, or if Max loses as well, they could both. Well, I guess if Max loses, that means Will won, and so for Luke, I don't really think he cares who wins that game. But either way, if Will were to win, he's pretty much in irrelevancy because of his points for lead against Max, and then it's all about Cole losing for Luke to join the party. But obviously he needs to win as well. And so basically the net is Luke and Will are kind of going against each other to get to irrelevancy. Will controls his own destiny a little bit more because he plays Max, who's currently in irrelevancy. And then they both need Cole to lose for them to both potentially escape with wins. But the number one goal is win. Win, win, win. Luke and Will. And I'm rooting for Will because I don't want Max to catch me. So I'm sure that made no sense, and you could have just read Luke's message and didn't listen to any of that. We'll obviously probably provide more of a rooting interest guide day by day, especially with Thanksgiving coming up. But that's the net. God damn it, Cannon. Okay. Yeah, it is probably gay. Okay. That is your official standings review, and now we're looking at week 13. It's Thanksgiving week. We've got 3 games on Thanksgiving, a game on Black Friday, a full slate on Sunday, and a Monday night game. And every single one of them, I'm sure, is going to be pivotal, entertaining, group text peak drama as we're balancing family time, food time, and football time. Let's look at the schedule and preview these games. I have Ty's picks texted in. I will make my own picks and preview. We're only going to look at the relevant matchups. So really quick, getting out of the way, the most irrelevant game ever, Ty and Andrew, 9-3 versus 3-9. They're locked into their seeds. Ty picked himself to beat Andrew by 70. I don't even care who wins. I'll say Andrew wins just because that'd be funny. Okay, and then now we will look at the relevant matchups. So let's start with Cannon and Cole. This one, everyone is pretty much rooting for Cannon except for obviously Cole. And we got a big favorite by ESPN, 57% chance to win. Cannon is 11-1. He's what's on the line for him here is rivaling Ty's 12-1 season from a couple years ago. So Cannon has that goal set in mind. Cole just needs to win to avoid the Sacko. So everything on the line here. Looking at the matchups, Hurts versus Mahomes, Black Friday and Thanksgiving. Mahomes going against Dallas. That's a great matchup. I like Mahomes a lot there, but honestly, both. It's kind of a wash at quarterback. Running back, Cole has Bijan and Genty. Bijan, good matchup against the Jets. Genty, kind of tough at the Chargers. Cannon's going with Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley. Taylor, tough matchup against the Texans, but Barkley gets the Bears. So if Barkley rushes in a couple touchdowns, that would really hurt Jalen Hurts for Cole. So that's kind of what the people rooting for Cannon are hoping for. Receiver is really where Cannon just dominates Cole. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jamar Chase. Chase is back with Joe Burrow on Thursday night at Baltimore. So, and again, Cole has Khalil Shakir and DK Metcalf. That's just embarrassing. Doesn't measure up at all. Jake Ferguson and Theo Johnson. Fergie just more likely to catch a touchdown. Flexes, Cole has RJ Harvey, Kenny Gainwell. Just a couple running backs who are going to get like 10 to 12 touches. Nothing to write home about. Cannon's got Kyron Williams, Rico Dowdle, the lead backs against each other. Rams and Panthers going facing each other this week. He really just needs them to plunge into the end zone. Jags D versus Browns D. Nobody cares. Okay. I'm going to go with Cannon, just the receivers again. Cannon's projected 144. He's 11-1. His team is stacked, and they're all healthy back for this week. So got to lean Cannon here, and everyone's rooting for that anyways. So that's what I'm going to pick. Ty is also picking Cannon 138-100. So nobody really believes in Cole. Cole has a chance to shock the world, do the funniest thing ever, whatever you want to say. And now looking at our next relevant matchup, we've got, actually these are all relevant this week. Let's go with me and Jerry next. That's probably the least interesting of the next ones. Jerry's 1-11. He's a bum. I'm 7-5. If I win, I'm in the playoffs. Funny enough, Jerry's projected to win. Not really sure how that happened. I feel like someone pointed out in the group text trying to make me feel bad. I don't really care about projections, but we'll see if Jerry can pick up his second win here. Looking at the matchups, Dak versus Bo Nix. Bo Nix is at Washington. That's a great matchup, but Dak's just playing so well. Bo Nix is playing so bad. I've got to go with Dak there. Javonte Williams and Travion Henderson for me. He's going with ETN and David Montgomery. Honestly, that kind of feels like a wash, a bunch of RB2s. I do like my guys slightly better just because Henderson's playing the Giants. And last time we saw Henderson at home in a primetime game, he put up almost 30. Granted, Ramondre wasn't back, but I still like myself there. Receiver, he's going with Worthy and Zay Flowers. I've got Pittman and Odunze. Honestly, I don't have a lot of confidence here in my receivers. Pittman's got the Texans. Odunze just hasn't been playing well, and he's at Philly. So I'll actually give Jerry maybe the edge there just with Zay Flowers against the Bengals. And then who knows, Worthy could catch a long touchdown against the Cowboys secondary. Tight end, Gadsden versus Hunter Henry. Kind of feels like a wash. And then at flex, he has Devon Achane at flex right now, projected 22 points. Definitely scared of Achane. He can just go for 20 or 30 at any point, and I don't really have that kind of firepower in my lineup. Wan'Dale Robinson just came off a huge game. I don't know if Jackson Dart's supposed to start or what. I've got Jacoby Myers and Chimere DK in at flex. Couple of low end receiving options, but they're both playing well right now, so I'm just trying to catch fire at flex. Yeah, I can actually see why Jerry's projected to win. Funny enough. I don't feel great about my lineup, but again, Jerry's 1-11. I just have confidence that he is not. I'm not going to be his second win here in the last week. Um, Jerry's a scrub. We've been going back and forth on this all year. There's really nothing to say about Jerry's team in a positive light, and so I think I'm going to get it done. I don't really see the path, but I just can't pick myself to lose to 1-11 a team. So I'm going to go with myself here. I'll go 115 to 100, low scoring. Looking at Ty's picks. He actually has Jerry to beat me. Don't really understand that pick from him. 116 to 106. So Ty's got Jerry pulling the upset and making me sweat. Looking at our other matchups here, we've got the two most important matchups of the week here, as Will needs to beat Max and Luke needs to beat Josh. Let's look at Luke and Josh first. ESPN is heavily favoring Josh, 143 to 128 in the projections. Luke has some guys off of the waiver wire: Jacoby Brissett, Devin Neal, Jaden Higgins, all in his lineup. Looking at quarterback, we got May on Monday night, so this one might not be decided until then. Versus Jacoby Brissett, who's kind of balling out at the Buccaneers. Pretty good matchup. I don't know. I feel like the shoe's going to drop for Jacoby eventually. Drake May just plays well, and the Giants are terrible. I got to lean Drake May there. Chase Brown, Derrick Henry against each other on Thanksgiving. Henry should have a huge game. And then Christian McCaffrey and Judkins against each other on Sunday. That one feels lower scoring. I kind of like Josh's two running backs in that matchup a little bit more over Luke's running backs. Receiver, Sun God and Devontae Adams versus A.J. Brown, Lad McConkey. I like Luke's receivers here. Sun God is just balling out, and so is Devontae. Catches 1 to 2 touchdowns every single week. A.J. Brown had a big game, so that kind of means he's coming back to earth this week. Lad McConkey has had an okay year, but not as he did last year. So got to lean Luke at receiver. At tight end, Trey McBride versus Brock Bowers, the top two tight ends drafted. McBride is just playing much better than Bowers right now. Bowers had one huge game, but McBride at Tampa Bay, you got to love that if you're Josh. Flexes, Brees Hall and Jalen Warren versus Devin Neal, Jaden Higgins. So Luke has just inserted some random bums. Not really sure what's going on here with Luke's team. Looking at his bench, I guess he just doesn't have any faith in Debo, Manungai, Pierce. Yeah, that checks out. Devin Neal has an opportunity with Kamara out. Jaden Higgins is playing pretty good, but the Colts secondary is much better since Sauce Gardner went there. Brees Hall is sitting at 15 points projected against the Falcons at home. I actually like Brees this week. Jalen Warren against Buffalo, that's a good matchup. Josh's flex is kind of clear here just based on their prowess and matchups. So overall, I think it makes sense why Josh is so heavily favored. Luke needs to win this one desperately to avoid the Sacko, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Josh holds on to the 3 seed and Luke falls into the Sacko, absolutely devastating. And then Ty also has that happening, 135, 127. He's picking Josh to beat Luke. And then real quick, I will preview the last matchup of Max and Will. I'll go with Lamar over Stafford. I just think Lamar's not playing well, but it's the Bengals. Max's running backs are terrible. I don't even know if Hamden's going to play. I'll take Gibbs and Swift. Receiver, Puka and Michael Wilson versus Pickens and Olave. Honestly, pretty even. I'm just going to call it a wash. Kelsey versus Goddard. I guess Kelsey, just maybe Taylor Swift in Dallas. Who knows? Flexes, Nico Collins and Troy Franklin versus Cortland Sutton to Tyrone Tracy. That also feels like a huge wash. So this one could go either way. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just the difference. Jahmyr Gibbs, Max doesn't really have anyone like him on his team. I'm going to go with Will to win this one and send Max to the Sacko. He's going to secure a relevancy for himself. And Ty also has that 128, 125, a close game. Hopefully, it's a thriller. And Will is going to escape the Sacko. And so, again, Ty's final picks for predictions are playoffs being me, Josh, himself, and Cannon, Cancun being Will and Max, Sacko being Cole, Luke, Andrew, Jerry. And I guess actually I have the same thing. I send Max to the Sacko, but we have the same picks all across. So the Sacko would be Cole, Luke, Andrew, Jerry. And again, enjoy your Thanksgiving, be thankful, eat some turkey, pumpkin pie, watch some football, watch Arkansas beat Duke. It's going to be a great Blind Squirrels weekend, and then we'll be back next week to preview the playoffs and the Sacko.